Okay, so let's unpack something that might completely reframe how you look at, well, all the chaos you see on the news.
Mm.
We are diving into an essay by a systems theorist named Dorothy W. Parker. It's called The Physics of Withdrawal.
And it is a fascinating read.
It is, because it just strips away all the politics, all the morality we usually obsess over.
Yeah, and it's almost a relief, you know.
Yeah.
Parker treats societal instability not as a battle of good versus evil, but as a structural engineering problem. She just looks at the math of it.
Which is so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because when we think about why nations get shaky, we blame the noise.
Of course, the polarization.
Exactly. The Twitter wars, the people screaming at each other.
Yeah.
We think the system is breaking because everyone is fighting too much.
But Parker argues the complete opposite. She says the real danger isn't the noise of disagreement, it's the silence of withdrawal.
It's not about who is shouting loudest.
No, it's about who has quietly walked out of the building.
She has this amazing metaphor of a bridge. A bridge doesn't collapse because a few bolts are rattling or, arguing.
Right.
It collapses when its redundancy is exhausted, when the backup systems have failed, and then the backup to the backup is gone.
And specifically, when the load-bearing elements stop carrying weight, in a society, that load-bearing element is, well, it's participation.
It's belief, it's trust, consent.
She calls it structural tension. And when that erodes, the structure might still look fine from the outside, but it's already crossed a functional threshold.
And this is where the data gets, it's genuinely terrifying. She ran this diagnostic across totally independent sectors, religion, the economy, government, even family.
And they're all hitting the same number. It's this eerie 40% convergence.
It's so strange.
It is. So take the spiritual sector. Parker points out that roughly 42% of adults have deconstructed their faith. And, we need to be clear, this isn't just people being lazy and sleeping in on a Sunday.
No, this is an active process.
It's actively dismantling the belief system that told you why you should even show up in the first place.
Which creates what she calls hollow structures. The institution is still there. The church is still on the corner.
But there's no internal agreement holding the roof up?
But let's look at the economy, because I feel like this is where you can really see it. The data shows nearly 40% of the workforce is now outside traditional employment.
Gig workers, freelancers, contractors.
Right, and on the surface, that sounds like freedom. You get to be your own boss.
But Parker points out the structural cost. Our entire system, tax systems, insurance pools, Social Security, it was all engineered for stable, long-term employment.
So when I switch to driving for Uber or I start freelancing, I'm not just changing my job. I am, in effect, defunding the safety net.
You're withdrawing your load from the collective pool. And when 40% of people exit that model, the machinery just can't fund itself anymore. It's a mechanical failure.
Regardless of your personal reasons for leaving.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're happier. The system only feels the missing weight.
And then you get to the civic side of it. Trust in institutions is, down in the 20s and 30s now?
Yeah, historically low. And Parker makes this fascinating point about what happens when consent fails. The system has to switch its operating model
From agreement
to enforcement. Think about it structurally. If you have high trust, you don't need a lot of rules because people voluntarily cooperate.
But when withdrawal hits that 40% mark,
the state has to use repetition and force just to maintain basic order.
Because if people don't voluntarily follow the speed limit, you suddenly need a cop on every corner to make sure they do.
Which is expensive and very brittle. But here's the real kicker. She argues this fracture goes all the way down to the family.
The micro level.
All the way. Rates of family estrangement are approaching that exact same 40% threshold.
She calls that microfracture, and it feels like we're living in a building where half the beams are rotten, but we just keep arguing about what color to paint the walls.
That's a great way to put it. But the most sympathetic part of her argument is about why this is happening. She really emphasizes this is not some coordinated revolt. It's not a conspiracy.
No, it's just rational self-preservation. People are withdrawing because these systems, a toxic family, a corrupt institution, a broken job market, they're no longer returning any value.
Exactly. If the bridge is hurting you, the only rational move is to get off the bridge. It's a survival strategy.
But that's the tragedy, isn't it? Because the system doesn't register your intent.
It only registers load.
That quote just stuck with me. A nation can survive dissent, but it cannot survive non-participation at scale. The bridge doesn't care why you left.
It only knows that a cable snapped.
And so all this chaos we see, all the fighting, It's not the problem.
It's a delayed consequence. It's the sound of a heavy machine trying to run when 40% of its operators have quietly walked away.
Which leaves us with this massive, really uncomfortable question. We spend all our time arguing about who's right and who's wrong, but Parker suggests the real question is just simple physics.
How much weight can this structure actually hold?
And if the system is failing because 40% of people have rationally decided it's too heavy to carry, what's the solution?
Do you try to force them back on?
Or do you have to finally admit that the bridge itself is broken and it's time to redesign the whole thing?
That is the question.
Thanks for deep diving with us. We'll catch you next time.